Hello everyone! Today, I'm back with another video titled, The Old Shoes and the Journey of Creating an Endless Legacy. Please support me so I can create more meaningful and inspiring videos for you. Emily was a woman with bright eyes and a warm smile who had dedicated her life to planting the seeds of knowledge in the hearts of children at a small school on the outskirts of town. She wasn't wealthy in material terms, but her soul was filled with the richness of compassion and kindness. Growing up in a family that wasn't well off, Emily knew firsthand the pain of scarcity. She had been the child who wore old, worn-out shoes to school, and who was teased by her peers for wearing clothes that were out of fashion. Yet, these experiences had nurtured in her a heart full of love and a fierce will to rise above her circumstances. Those childhood memories became the driving force that led Emily to become a teacher. She wanted to dedicate her life to helping children who were in situations similar to hers when she was young, children who dreamed of a brighter future but were held back by the limitations of their environment. Emily believed that education wasn't just about teaching children to read and write, but also about instilling in them values of kindness, perseverance, and belief in themselves. Every day, Emily worked tirelessly to create a nurturing environment for her students. She knew that many of them came from underprivileged backgrounds, much like she had, and that school was often the only place where they felt safe, heard, and valued. She wasn't just a teacher to them, she was a mentor, a counselor, and sometimes even a mother figure. She made sure her classroom was a space where each child felt seen and where their dreams were encouraged. But it wasn't always easy. There were days when the weight of her work seemed too heavy to bear. Emily often went home at night exhausted, mentally and physically drained, but she always kept going because she knew how much her students depended on her. She found strength in their smiles, their curiosity, and their progress. She believed deeply in their potential, and that belief kept her going through the toughest days. One day, Emily encountered a new student named Tom. Tom was quiet and withdrawn, often sitting alone in the corner of the classroom, his eyes downcast, avoiding interaction with others. Emily noticed him right away. He was a smart boy, but he had no confidence in himself. She could tell that he was carrying a heavy burden, one that was preventing him from fully engaging with the world around him. He struggled with his studies, and though he had potential, he seemed to have no belief in his own abilities. Emily took it upon herself to help him. She spent extra time with him after class, patiently explaining lessons, encouraging him, and listening to his concerns. She noticed that Tom loved drawing but had never shared this passion with anyone before. One afternoon, as she watched him doodle during a lesson, she gently asked him if he would like to share his drawings with the class. Tom hesitated at first but eventually agreed. Emily gave him a small moment of encouragement that changed everything. The next day, Tom brought in a few sketches to show his classmates. To his surprise, they were fascinated by his art. His classmates began to praise him, and for the first time, Tom felt proud of something he had created. This small act of recognition gave him a newfound sense of confidence. Over time, Emily continued to nurture his talent, not just in art, but in every aspect of his life. She showed him that his worth wasn't defined by his circumstances, but by his unique qualities and his potential to grow and change. Through her unwavering support and belief in him, Tom began to open up. He became more engaged in his studies, started making friends, and most importantly, he began to believe in himself. Emily saw in him the same spark of potential that she had seen in so many of her students, but in Tom, it was as if a light had been turned on. One day, Tom came to her after class, holding a drawing he had made. It was a portrait of Emily, smiling and standing in front of a classroom full of students. It was a simple sketch, but it spoke volumes. Tom had drawn her not just as his teacher, but as someone who had helped him change his life. He thanked her for believing in him when no one else had. Emily's eyes welled up with tears as she looked at the drawing, realizing that her work had made a difference in a way she had never expected. Emily's story of kindness and transformation was not an isolated one. Over the years, many of her students went on to achieve incredible things. Some became doctors, engineers, and teachers themselves. Others went on to become community leaders, using the lessons they had learned from Emily to give back to their own neighborhoods. Her impact rippled out far beyond the walls of her classroom, creating a legacy of change and compassion that would last for generations. For Emily, the most rewarding part of teaching wasn't the accolades or the recognition. It was the moments like the one with Tom, when she saw the transformation in her students, when she knew that her small acts of kindness and encouragement had helped them realize their full potential. She had witnessed firsthand the power of education to not only change a person's future, but also to transform their heart and their spirit. As the years went by, Emily grew older, but her passion for teaching never waned. She continued to work tirelessly, always driven by the desire to make a difference in the lives of her students. She knew that the world was full of challenges, but she also knew that with kindness, compassion, and a belief in each other, change was possible. Emily's story is a testament to the power of kindness and the incredible impact that one person can have on the lives of many. It reminds us that even in the face of adversity, we all have the ability to rise above our circumstances and to help others do the same. Through love, patience, and a willingness to believe in the potential of others, we can all make a difference in the world, just as Emily did for Tom and countless others. Emily was a woman with bright eyes and a warm smile who had dedicated her life to planting the seeds of knowledge in the hearts of children at a small school on the outskirts of town. She was not wealthy in material terms, but her soul was rich with compassion and kindness. Growing up in a family that struggled financially, Emily deeply understood the pain of lack. She had been the child who wore worn-out shoes to school and was often teased by her classmates for her old clothes. Yet, it was these experiences that nurtured in her a heart full of love and a determination to rise above her circumstances. Those childhood memories became a great source of motivation for Emily to become a teacher. She wanted to devote her life to helping children who were in similar situations to the one she had once faced, children who dreamed of a better future but were held back by their difficult circumstances. Emily believed that education wasn't just about teaching students how to read and write, it was also about teaching them values of kindness, perseverance, and self-belief. In Emily's classroom, Tommy was a shy boy whose eyes, however, gleamed with determination. His family lived in a dilapidated house on the outskirts of town, where laughter seemed to have been overshadowed by the worries of daily survival. His mother, Mrs. Linda, was a small but strong woman, working tirelessly in a sewing workshop to provide for her family. Tommy also had 2 younger siblings, and he often had to help his mother care for them after school. Every morning, he would walk to school in shoes so worn that they barely had soles, but he always tried to appear cheerful so as not to make his mother sad. Emily had noticed Tommy for quite some time. Not just because of his torn shoes or his sad demeanor, but because of his tremendous effort in his studies. Tommy always completed his homework, even though Emily knew that at home, he didn't have a proper desk to study at. Instead, he worked in a small corner next to the kitchen, with light from a dim oil lamp. The boy was the embodiment of the will to rise above fate, and this made Emily even more determined to help him. She saw in Tommy not just a student in need, but a bright spirit capable of overcoming challenges. Emily knew the odds he was facing. His home was far from ideal, and his family struggled just to make ends meet. Yet, every time she saw him, he was diligently working, doing his best to learn. Emily could sense that Tommy's quiet determination wasn't born out of pride or arrogance, but rather a deep need to make something better of his life. One afternoon, Emily sat down with Tommy after class, noticing that he had a test he hadn't yet turned in. "Tommy," she said softly, "I noticed you seemed distracted today. Is everything okay at home?" Tommy looked up at her with wide eyes, as if he hadn't expected the question. For a long moment, there was silence. Emily patiently waited. Finally, Tommy spoke in a low voice. "My mom is really tired, Miss Emily. I try to help her when I can. Sometimes, I don't have time to study because I have to take care of my brothers." Emily's heart ached. She knew how difficult things were for him, but at that moment, she also knew she could do something to help him. "Tommy," she said, gently placing her hand on his shoulder, "you don't have to carry all of this alone. I'm here to help you, and I believe in you. Your dreams matter, and you're not alone in trying to reach them." From that day on, Emily made it a point to offer Tommy more help, not just with his studies, but with the practical issues he faced. She spoke to the school administration and helped arrange for him to receive extra tutoring after hours. She found out that Tommy loved to draw and encouraged him to share his artwork with the class. She could see that creativity was his escape, a way to express himself beyond the hardships he faced at home. As the weeks passed, Emily saw subtle changes in Tommy. His confidence grew, and he began to open up to his classmates more. One day, he proudly presented a drawing of a house filled with bright colors and happy figures. "This is my dream house," Tommy said shyly, "where we're all happy and I can help my mom." Emily's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the drawing. It was a simple picture, but it symbolized so much: Tommy's hope for a better life, his resilience, and his belief in something greater than his current reality. As the school year drew to a close, Tommy's grades improved significantly, and his classmates began to notice his efforts. His teachers, too, saw the difference, but none were prouder of him than Emily. She knew that Tommy's journey wasn't just about academic success, it was about a deep transformation of character. He had learned not only how to persevere, but also how to ask for help and accept support. One afternoon, after the final class of the year, Tommy handed Emily a small, carefully wrapped package. "This is for you, Miss Emily," he said, looking down shyly. Emily carefully unwrapped the gift and found a simple notebook, its pages filled with sketches and doodles. At the very front, Tommy had drawn a portrait of her, standing in front of a classroom full of smiling students. "I made this because you helped me believe in myself," Tommy said quietly. "I never thought I could do anything like this before." Emily hugged Tommy, her heart full of pride. "You've done it all yourself, Tommy. You just needed to believe that you could." As Tommy walked out of the classroom that day, Emily watched him go, feeling the overwhelming sense of joy and fulfillment that only a teacher who has witnessed such transformation can feel. Tommy's success was not just a reflection of his hard work, but of the power of encouragement, love, and kindness. And Emily knew that she had made a difference in his life, a difference that would last far beyond the classroom walls. In the years that followed, Emily continued to teach with the same passion and dedication, knowing that every student, no matter their circumstances, carried within them the potential for greatness. Her legacy was not measured by the test scores of her students, but by the kindness and support she had given them, and by the countless lives she had touched with her unwavering belief in the power of change. That day, when Emily noticed Tommy trying to hide his feet in socks riddled with holes, her heart ached deeply. After school, she couldn't stop thinking about that image. On her way home, Emily stopped by a small shoe store. She carefully picked out a sturdy pair of sneakers, recalling the size Tommy had mentioned during a math exercise. The next morning, before class began, Emily handed Tommy the new shoes with a gentle note. "This is a small gift from me. I just want you to always feel comfortable so you can keep focusing on your studies." Tommy's eyes lit up with surprise and gratitude. "Thank you, Miss Emily," he said, his voice trembling. For the first time, Emily saw Tommy's face break into a radiant smile, one so genuine and unguarded it melted her heart. But what Emily had thought was a simple act of kindness soon spiraled into an unexpected storm. One of her colleagues, who had long harbored resentment toward her for being so beloved by the students, reported her action to the school principal. The school had a strict policy forbidding teachers from giving personal gifts to students, a rule Emily had unknowingly violated. Emily was summoned to the principal's office the next day. The principal, Mr. Harris, was a stern but fair man who valued professionalism above all else. "Miss Emily," he began, his voice calm but firm, "I've received a report that you gave a student a personal gift. While I understand your intentions were good, this violates school policy. We must ensure fairness and avoid any perception of favoritism." Emily explained her perspective, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. Tommy comes to school every day wearing shoes that are falling apart. He's such a hardworking child, and I couldn't bear to see him struggle. It wasn't favoritism, it was simply about helping a child in need. Mr. Harris sighed. I understand your compassion, Emily, but rules are rules. I'll need to bring this matter to the school board for review. Word spread quickly among the staff, and whispers of gossip followed Emily wherever she went. Some of her colleagues criticized her openly, accusing her of being reckless and unprofessional. Others sympathized with her but stayed silent, not wanting to be dragged into the controversy. Meanwhile, the students had no idea what was happening behind the scenes, but they noticed a change in their beloved teacher. Emily, usually so vibrant and full of energy, seemed quieter, her smile dimmer. Tommy, however, was oblivious to the turmoil. He wore his new shoes every day, walking taller and more confidently than ever before. One afternoon, as Emily sat in her classroom grading papers, a soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was Tommy's mother, Linda, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. Miss Emily, she began, her voice shaking, I heard about what's happening. I just want to thank you. Those shoes mean the world to Tommy and to me. I know how much you care about these kids, and I want you to know that your kindness doesn't go unnoticed. Emily was deeply moved by Linda's words, but they did little to ease the anxiety weighing on her. The day of the school board meeting arrived. Emily stood before the panel, her heart pounding as she explained her actions. She emphasized that her decision to buy the shoes wasn't about breaking rules, but about addressing an immediate need for a child who had no other support. The board members listened carefully, some nodding in understanding while others exchanged skeptical glances. After deliberating for what felt like an eternity, they delivered their decision. Emily would not be fired, but she would receive a formal warning and be required to attend additional training on the school's policies. Relieved but emotionally drained, Emily returned to her classroom the next day. Her students greeted her with warm smiles, and for a moment, she felt a glimmer of hope. What Emily didn't realize was that her story had sparked a broader conversation within the community. Parents, moved by her act of kindness, began advocating for changes in the school's policies. Why can't teachers support students in need? They argued. Rules shouldn't get in the way of compassion. The school eventually revised its policy, allowing teachers to provide help in special cases, provided they sought approval from the administration. Emily's actions had unintentionally led to a positive change, creating a system that better supported students like Tommy. Despite the challenges she faced, Emily remained steadfast in her belief that small acts of kindness could create ripples far beyond their immediate impact. She continued to teach with the same dedication, her experience serving as a reminder that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Years later, Tommy returned to visit Emily, now a young man with a successful career. He handed her a small, worn notebook. Miss Emily, he said, this notebook has all my sketches from when I was a kid. You were the first person to believe in me, and I wouldn't be where I am today without you. Tears filled Emily's eyes as she flipped through the pages, seeing how far Tommy had come. Her small act of kindness had grown into something far greater than she ever imagined, proving that even the simplest gestures can leave a lasting legacy. Principal Davidson called Emily into his office. Emily, I understand that your intentions were good, he began, his tone firm, but this action is simply unacceptable. His voice carried the weight of authority and finality. Despite Emily's heartfelt attempts to explain that she only wanted to help a student in desperate need, rules were rules and they had been broken. After a tense meeting with the school board, the verdict was handed down. Emily was to leave her beloved position. The news hit her like a tidal wave. Her dedication, her love for teaching, and her connection with her students, all of it felt like it had been invalidated in an instant. That day, as she walked out of the school building carrying a box of her personal belongings, Emily felt as though the world had turned its back on her. Memories of her years at the school flooded her mind. The long hours spent preparing lessons, the bright smiles of her students, the joy of seeing them grow and succeed. Now, it all seemed to have evaporated, swept away by a single act of compassion. The days that followed were some of the hardest Emily had ever faced. She avoided going into town, fearing the judgmental whispers of others who might have heard about her dismissal. Inside her small apartment, she spent hours replaying the events in her mind, questioning whether she had made the right choice. Was it worth losing her career over a pair of shoes? Despite the doubt gnawing at her, Emily couldn't bring herself to regret helping Tommy. She recalled the way his face lit up when she handed him the shoes, the way he walked a little taller the next day. She had given him more than just footwear. She had given him dignity and hope. Unbeknownst to Emily, her story had begun to spread through the community. Parents, moved by her sacrifice, started voicing their support. If teachers can't step in when our children are struggling, then what kind of system are we upholding? One parent asked during a school meeting. Another added, Miss Emily did what any of us would have done. She put the needs of a child above bureaucracy. Students, too, began to speak out. Tommy, shy as he was, stood up during a class discussion and said, Miss Emily didn't just give me shoes. She made me feel like I mattered. She's the best teacher I've ever had. His words touched his classmates, many of whom had their own stories of Emily's kindness and support. Soon, the wave of support became too strong to ignore. The school board was inundated with letters, petitions, and requests to reconsider their decision. Even Principal Davidson, initially rigid in his stance, began to question whether they had been too harsh. One evening, Emily received an unexpected knock at her door. Standing there was Mrs. Linda, Tommy's mother, holding a letter. Miss Emily, she said, her voice trembling, I thought you should see this. The letter was from the school board. In it, they acknowledged the outpouring of support from the community and admitted that their response may have been too severe. While they couldn't undo what had happened, they offered Emily a chance to return in the upcoming school year under a revised set of guidelines that allowed teachers to assist students in need through proper channels. Emily's heart swelled with a mix of relief and gratitude. Though her trust in the system had been shaken, the community's support had restored her faith in the power of standing by one's principles. When Emily returned to the school the following fall, she was greeted with cheers and applause from students and parents alike. Tommy was the first to run up to her, wearing the now slightly scuffed sneakers she had given him. Miss Emily, he said, his face glowing with happiness, I knew you'd come back. Emily knelt down to his level, her voice steady but full of emotion. Tommy, I came back because of you, and because of everyone who believed that kindness matters. From that day forward, Emily's classroom became more than just a place of learning. It was a symbol of compassion and resilience. The story of her sacrifice and the community's response became a legend in the school, a reminder that sometimes doing the right thing means facing storms, but those storms can lead to brighter days ahead. In the end, Emily realized that the true lesson wasn't just for her students, it was for everyone who had been a part of the journey. Kindness, though it may come with challenges, always leaves a lasting impact far greater than the obstacles it creates. But as one door closed, another opened. In the depths of her despair, Emily received a phone call that would change her life forever. On the other end of the line was Jonathan Reeves, a successful yet enigmatic philanthropist. He had come across Emily's story in a heartfelt social media post written by a local resident who admired her actions. Emily, Jonathan began, his voice calm yet filled with conviction, the world needs more people like you. Your story touched me deeply, and I believe you have a gift that shouldn't go to waste. I'd like to invite you to join my charitable foundation to help underprivileged children across the country. For Emily, the offer was more than just a new career opportunity. It was a beacon of hope, a validation that her kindness and integrity still held value in the world. It was proof that even in the face of adversity, her efforts had not gone unnoticed. After a moment of reflection, Emily replied, Mr. Reeves, I'd be honored to join your mission. With those words, her life embarked on a new and inspiring chapter. Joining Jonathan's organization, Emily's impact grew far beyond what she could have ever imagined. No longer limited to the confines of a single classroom, she now had the resources to make a difference on a national scale. Drawing from her experiences as a teacher, she spearheaded the creation of Emily's Heart Fund, a program dedicated to supporting children in need. The initiative focused on providing essential items like shoes, clothing, and school supplies to underprivileged kids, ensuring they could attend school with dignity and confidence. But Emily didn't stop there. The fund also introduced scholarship programs for academically gifted students from low-income families, helping them achieve dreams that once seemed out of reach. Emily traveled across the country, visiting schools in impoverished areas, speaking with children and their families, and collaborating with local communities to identify their most pressing needs. Her genuine warmth and unwavering dedication inspired countless others to join the cause. Parents, teachers, and volunteers united under her leadership, creating a movement driven by compassion and hope. One of Emily's proudest moments came when she returned to her hometown for a special event hosted by the foundation. Among the attendees was Tommy, now a confident teenager with a bright smile. He walked up to the podium to share his story, his voice steady and filled with gratitude. "Miss Emily didn't just give me a pair of shoes," Tommy began. "She gave me a reason to believe in myself. That one act of kindness changed my life, and now I want to pay it forward." Tommy had become an ambassador for the foundation, mentoring younger students and encouraging them to pursue their goals despite life's challenges. Seeing how far he had come, Emily felt an overwhelming sense of pride and fulfillment. Over the years, Emily's Heart Fund became a symbol of hope for families across the country. Thousands of children received the support they needed to thrive academically and personally. Many of them went on to achieve remarkable things, crediting Emily and the foundation for giving them the opportunity to succeed. Emily's story also inspired a broader cultural shift. Schools and communities began reevaluating their policies and priorities, recognizing the importance of compassion in education. The rigid systems that had once punished acts of kindness started to evolve, paving the way for a more empathetic approach to addressing student needs. Decades later, Emily reflected on her journey. What had started as a small act of generosity had grown into a nationwide movement, touching the lives of countless children. She often thought back to that fateful day when she handed Tommy a pair of shoes, unaware of the chain of events it would set in motion. Her heart swelled with gratitude for Jonathan Reeves, who had believed in her when she needed it most, and for the community that had rallied around her during her darkest hour. In her final public speech, Emily shared a message that resonated deeply with everyone who heard it. Kindness is never wasted. It may not always be easy, and it may not always be understood, but it has the power to change lives, not just for those who receive it, but for those who give it. Never underestimate the impact of a single act of compassion. Emily's legacy lived on, not just through the foundation, but in the hearts of all who had been touched by her story. Her journey was a testament to the transformative power of kindness and the enduring ripple effects of doing what's right, even in the face of adversity. Years later, at a scholarship awards ceremony, a now-grown Tommy stood at the podium. He was no longer the timid boy with worn-out shoes, but a confident man who had followed in Emily's footsteps to become a teacher. As he began his speech, his voice trembled with emotion. "I'll never forget the day Miss Emily gave me those shoes," he said, his eyes glistening with tears. "It wasn't just about the shoes, it was about what they represented. They gave me hope. They told me I mattered. And because of that, I kept walking forward." The audience, moved by his words, erupted into applause, some wiping away their own tears. In the back of the room, Emily sat quietly, her heart swelling with pride. She smiled warmly, knowing that the seeds of kindness she had planted all those years ago had blossomed into something extraordinary. Emily's story wasn't just about a pair of shoes or one struggling student. It became a tale of how small acts of kindness can spark profound change, not only in individuals, but also in communities. Her gesture had inspired Tommy to persevere and, in turn, to inspire countless others as he mentored and taught children from underprivileged backgrounds. Tommy's story became a catalyst for others to share their experiences of kindness. Parents in the audience spoke about how Emily's foundation had provided their children with opportunities they never thought possible. A former student of hers recounted how her encouragement had given him the confidence to apply for a scholarship that ultimately changed his life. Soon, the event wasn't just a scholarship ceremony, it became a celebration of the transformative power of compassion. After retiring from active work with Jonathan Reeves Foundation, Emily devoted herself to mentoring young teachers, sharing her experiences, and encouraging them to prioritize empathy in the classroom. She also wrote a book titled Walking in Their Shoes, which became a bestseller. The book chronicled her journey and the lessons she had learned, emphasizing how even the smallest acts of care could leave an indelible mark on someone's life. The proceeds from the book went directly to expanding Emily's Heart Fund, which had by then grown into a nationwide initiative. The fund didn't just provide material support, it also created mentorship programs, training for teachers in underfunded schools, and counseling services for children facing adversity. Emily's efforts garnered recognition far and wide. She was invited to speak at international conferences on education and philanthropy, sharing her philosophy that teaching was not just about imparting knowledge, but about nurturing the soul. As the years went by, Emily watched with quiet satisfaction as the movement she had started continued to thrive. Former recipients of her foundation's aid were now doctors, engineers, teachers, and community leaders. Many of them credited Emily's influence for their success and paid it forward by supporting the next generation of children in need. One particularly memorable moment came when Tommy, now a father himself, named his daughter Emily in her honor. "Miss Emily didn't just change my life," he said during a heartfelt conversation with her. "She taught me what it means to believe in others and to lead with love." Emily's story serves as a reminder that the smallest actions can have the most profound impact. A simple pair of shoes changed the trajectory of a boy's life, setting off a chain reaction of kindness that continues to ripple through countless lives. To those reading or hearing this story, Emily's message is clear. Never underestimate the power of one small act of kindness. You may not see the full extent of its impact, but rest assured, it will echo far beyond what you could ever imagine. Each of us holds the power to change a life, not through grand gestures, but through the love and care we offer in the little moments. As Emily sat at the back of the hall, watching Tommy inspire yet another generation with his words, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Her journey, once filled with obstacles and doubt, had come full circle. The ceremony concluded, and people approached Emily to thank her, to share their stories, and to express how her kindness had inspired them. A young teacher, brimming with enthusiasm, approached her and said, "Miss Emily, your story has changed the way I see my role as a teacher. I want to be like you." Emily, with her characteristic humility, placed a hand on the teacher's shoulder and said, "Don't aim to be like me. Be yourself and lead with your heart. That's all the world needs." Though Emily's active work eventually ended, her legacy continued to flourish. Schools named programs after her, children carried forward her lessons, and communities embraced the philosophy that kindness was not just an action, but a way of life. In the end, Emily's story wasn't just her own, it belonged to everyone whose life had been touched by her compassion. The story may have concluded, but its message lives on, inspiring each of us to take that first small step toward making a difference. What an inspiring and valuable lesson! Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.